Bang! The door to the meeting room at Buckingham Palace slammed shut, echoing down the cold marble corridors. Papers flew across the table, scattering to the floor like shards of broken trust. At the far end of the room, Prince William shot up from his chair, his face flushed with anger. His voice cut through the silence, cold and sharp. "Leave. Now." The room fell completely silent. No one dared to breathe. Camilla froze, eyes wide, hands trembling as she gripped her handbag. Her gaze flicked over the advisors, bowing their heads to the table, avoiding her entirely. Not a single person was on her side. The air was thick, as if all of Buckingham was holding its breath. Just hours earlier, a highly classified audit report had been sent to the meeting room. Over £4.2 million from the Royal Foundation charity had vanished without a trace. And at the very bottom of the approval list, in bold, glaring letters, was the name Camilla Parker Bowles, the Queen of England. The shock sent ripples through the entire royal cabinet. William, who had long tried to protect the monarchy's image in the public eye, could no longer contain himself. So the question remained, was Camilla truly embezzling charitable funds? Or was this an elaborate plot designed to bring her down? If you believe Camilla is guilty, comment 1. If you think this is a political trap, comment 2. November 2025. The atmosphere in the Royal Foundation meeting room was unlike any other. This was the annual review where members of the royal family and their financial advisors scrutinized the foundation's activity reports. The polished marble walls reflected a warm golden light, while the long wooden table was stacked with files and copies of financial statements. Numbers and signatures, seemingly harmless, had now become the first threads hinting at an impending scandal. Prince William entered with Princess Catherine, his gaze serious yet resolute. This was the first time they attended not just as royal representatives, but as direct overseers, charged with protecting the reputation and integrity of the family's charitable foundation. All eyes turned to them as William placed his hand over a stack of documents in front of him, scanning each number with the meticulous precision of someone trained to notice every detail. In the tense silence, a young advisor cleared his throat. Carefully, he held up a report, his voice trembling slightly. "Your Highness, there's an internal transfer of £4.2 million. I'm not sure what it was used for. It appears it wasn't properly documented." The room fell completely still. The rustle of paper sounded louder than ever as everyone leaned in to examine the report. William raised an eyebrow, eyes locking on Camilla at the far end of the table. She remained composed, but a flicker of unease passed across her eyes. He said, voice firm, "Explain this. Now." But Camilla seized the opportunity, offering a sly, ironic smile while maintaining her calm demeanor. "It was a cultural project under my direction. Everything is legitimate and within the approved plan." Her words left the advisors silent, none daring to interrupt or contradict her. Catherine sat beside William, eyes cold, observing every expression on her husband's face. There was something in Camilla's attitude that unsettled her, as if the Queen were hiding something no one knew. William's brow furrowed, suspicion gradually hardening on his face. He scanned every page, signature, and note. The numbers, once merely administrative tools, now formed pieces of a disturbing puzzle. A large sum had disappeared, and the final approval rested in Camilla's hands, something no one had dared to question before. The tension in the room was palpable. You could almost hear your own heartbeat. Camilla, despite her effort to remain composed, gripped the edge of the table, her eyes momentarily betraying fear. Yet she stood firm in defending her argument. William's tone grew stern. "Explain every expense clearly, and all evidence must be transparent." Catherine glanced at her husband, eyes signaling unwavering support for his approach, while the room waited in tense anticipation for the next words. But even as Camilla continued her defense, William's doubts could not be dispelled. Every word, every figure, suggested a betrayal unfolding right before his eyes. He began to realize that what was lost was not just money, but trust, the honor of the royal family, preserved for generations. The numbers in the Royal Foundation's financial report, once lifeless, now spoke volumes, revealing a dark story no one had dared imagine. Leaked documents suggested that Camilla, head of the projects and long seen as a symbol of dedication to charitable causes, had approved unclear, possibly misappropriated expenses. Among the questionable items, the first was the hiring of a private PR firm. Sources claimed Camilla had used hundreds of thousands of pounds from the fund to promote her personal image, elevating her status in the public eye without notifying other royal family members. The contracts passed through her office, appearing legitimate on paper, but in reality, they served no charitable purpose. But it didn't stop there. Camilla had also spent funds on acquiring artwork for her personal collection, paintings, sculptures, and other valuable pieces, each worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, were recorded in the foundation's books under the label of cultural support, when in reality they were meant to decorate her private spaces. These details only came to light when an independent audit team cross-checked the expenses against the charity's stated objectives. The most shocking discovery was a $250,000 sum spent on a private event for one of Camilla's close friends, a lavish affair with flowers, wine, a live band, and guests entirely unrelated to the charity's mission. Receipts and invoices were attached, but upon inspection, there was no charitable activity whatsoever. This was the first clear sign that Camilla had abused her authority, turning charitable funds into a tool for personal gain. Catherine, with her keen and intuitive nature, observed everything silently. She did not speak during the meeting, but discreetly sent leaked reports and minutes to the independent audit team outside. She understood that if Camilla were allowed to continue concealing the truth, the facts would never come to light, and the royal family's honor would be tarnished. Her eyes followed William, noting the doubts forming in him, a mixture of anger and disappointment flickering across his face. William began receiving feedback from the independent auditors, signs of misuse of authority within the foundation. Some expenditures do not serve charitable purposes and may have been funneled through intermediary accounts. Transparency of PR contracts and private events needs verification. Each line felt like a knife, stoking the simmering fury within him. He realized the issue was not just numbers, it was a betrayal of trust. The very trust the public had placed in the royal family and in the charity that he and Catherine had worked to uphold. The long-serving staff in the room exchanged uneasy glances, no one daring to speak. Camilla tried to maintain composure, but her hands trembled, eyes darting around for support. No one met her gaze. The silence made the severity of the situation even clearer. The person once most trusted had become the center of scandal. Meanwhile, William remained silent, focused on every line and detail in the report. He sensed that every concealment, every unusual expense, pointed to one truth. Camilla was using her power to serve personal interests. With each passing second, the simmering anger inside him felt like a fire ready to ignite. Catherine gently placed her hand over his, a quiet gesture of support, reminding him to stay composed and handle the matter correctly. These revelations did more than anger William. They cast doubt over the entire royal structure. If Camilla could manipulate the charitable funds so subtly, who could be certain there were no other misappropriations? More importantly, if this behavior remained hidden, the royal family's reputation would suffer immensely, and public trust would crumble. On Monday morning at Buckingham Palace, an emergency meeting was immediately convened. The long meeting room, with its polished brown wooden table, pale golden light reflecting off the chandelier onto the window panes, carried an atmosphere both somber and suffocating. Familiar faces of royal family members and financial advisors were present. But today, all eyes were on two figures, Prince William and Camilla, the Queen at the center of the financial scandal. Catherine sat beside William, sharp-eyed and composed, silently observing every expression of her husband and the adversary. She knew today was no ordinary meeting. It was the moment when every secret, every unclear expenditure, would be exposed. Two independent auditors sat on either side, notebooks in hand, ready to present the evidence they had collected. The atmosphere initially seemed normal, but with each passing minute, tension in the room grew palpable. William rose, eyes cold as steel, gripping a copy of the financial report he had just received from the auditors. He placed it on the table, the rustle of paper making everyone flinch. "Can you explain why your signature is here?" he asked, voice serious and commanding, catching Camilla slightly off guard. Every eye in the room turned to her, silent. Camilla attempted a calm smile, maintaining her composed tone. "Everything is transparent. Your Highness, I approve the expenditures according to the proper procedures and the Foundation's objectives." But William did not relent. He lifted another folder and placed it squarely in front of her. Inside were invoices, receipts, and an intermediary account held by one of Camilla's friends, into which £250,000 from the charity had been transferred. Camilla's eyes flickered with fear, her hands trembling, and the calm smile she had maintained moments before began to waver. "Who are you talking to, William?" she asked, her voice low, trying to mask her panic. But William replied coldly, each word like a hammer blow. "To the person who traded the honor of this royal family for money." The words echoed through the room, freezing everyone in place. All eyes turned to Camilla, feeling pressure like never before. William pressed on, laying out each suspicious expense in turn: private PR contracts, secret parties, artworks worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, all recorded under cultural support or community projects, yet clearly serving Camilla's personal interests. With each piece of evidence presented, Camilla trembled, scanning the room for support from the advisors, but none came. Catherine remained seated beside William, her gaze unwavering, sending a clear message. She stood with her husband, and the truth must come out. The independent auditors spoke up, detailing each transaction and transfer, providing irrefutable proof that these expenditures had no charitable purpose. Every number, every receipt was thoroughly verified, pointing to one conclusion: Camilla had abused her authority, using charitable funds for personal gain. Tension in the room reached its peak as William rose, voice low but steel sharp. "You have exploited trust and power to turn the charity into a personal tool. This is not just about money. This is about the honor and credibility of the royal family." His gaze fixed on Camilla, the light in the room reflecting his simmering anger, leaving her no room to avoid it. Camilla began to shake, her voice wavering as she tried to justify herself. "William, everything I did was according to procedure." But William cut her off, slamming another folder onto the table. Inside were documents showing that the opaque expenses had been funneled into accounts held by her friends and allies, clearer than any suspicion. She had no words, eyes darting around the room, realizing the isolation closing in on her. William stepped closer to the table, his voice like thunder. "Leave this room immediately." A sharp slap on the table made everyone startle. Papers flying. The room fell into absolute silence. Camilla rose, hesitating for a few seconds, but she had no other choice. She turned and walked out of the meeting, each step dragging behind it the trust she had once shattered. Catherine watched her husband, her gaze a mix of relief and vigilance. William exhaled slowly, yet his eyes never left the remaining documents on the table. He knew today was only the first step in defending the royal family's honor and ensuring transparency in the charity. The direct confrontation was over, but the aftermath, the gossip, the outrage would follow Camilla every step of the way. In the subsequent silence, the advisors and auditors realized that every suspicion, every red flag they had noted, had now been confirmed. Camilla, once powerful and trusted, had been completely exposed, and William, with his decisive action, had sent a clear message. No one stands above the law and the honor of the royal family. But as Camilla exited, she did not realize that the door closing was not just on the meeting, but on her position in the public eye. News of the secret meeting at Buckingham quickly leaked, and within hours, The story "William kicks Camilla out of meeting" was everywhere on major news sites and social media, creating a media earthquake across the UK and US. Prominent newspapers like The Guardian immediately ran sensational headlines. Royal scandal, charity funds missing. Meanwhile, Daily Mail did not hesitate to name her directly. Camilla under fire over £4.2 million scandal. These headlines sparked public uproar. What had started as an internal royal matter had become a full-blown financial scandal. 4.2 million, a staggering sum that would shock any ordinary person. Social media erupted into a battlefield. On Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, people split into two camps. One side fiercely criticized Camilla, labeling her greedy, vain, accusing her of misusing the royal charity for personal gain, from lavish private parties for friends to spending on unrelated artwork. Memes, satirical images, and compilation clips of press evidence spread rapidly, casting Camilla as the villain. The other side questioned the power dynamics within the royal family, suggesting William might be consolidating his position, exerting pressure to shift the power structure. They argued this could be a generation clash, with Camilla representing the old guard, colliding with William, symbol of the new generation, determined to defend his honor and authority. This faction did not deny the questionable expenses, but emphasized that the public exposure could be as much political as punitive. International media continued to cover the story in real time. CNN, BBC, and Sky News all highlighted the scandal's devastating impact on the royal family's reputation. Commentators described it as one of the biggest scandals since the Royal Foundation was established, while royal experts called it a double shock, both a financial scandal and a personal credibility crisis for Camilla. While public outrage surged, Catherine's appearance at a subsequent charity event quickly became the center of attention. The media painted her as a symbol of silent strength, appearing calm, her expression serious yet confident, as if silently sending a message to both the public and the royal family. She and William would protect the charity's honor and would tolerate no abuse of power. This image heightened the contrast between Catherine and Camilla, reinforcing public perception that Camilla's influence and credibility were fading. Meanwhile, short interview clips and social media videos circulated showing financial advisors and independent auditors discussing the expenditures, revealing that the scandal was not just about the missing £4.2 million, but also about a profound breach of trust. Some harshly described Camilla as someone who put personal gain above everything, even the royal family and the public, while many others emphasized that William and Catherine were the ones fiercely defending transparency and integrity. The media went beyond reporting, analyzing each expense and piece of evidence William had presented during the meeting. Cash flow charts, invoice images, and comparison tables were widely shared, creating a complete picture of the scandal's severity. Even royal podcasts dedicated special episodes to dissecting the situation, inviting financial experts and investigative journalists, amplifying the story's reach like never before. Notably, public reaction reflected intense anger and debate. Some created Facebook groups to monitor Camilla and protect the charity, while others launched forums debating power games in the royal family, even speculating on possible internal political motives behind the scandal. Hashtags like #CamillaScandal, #RoyalCharity, and #WilliamViviesCamilla quickly trended on Twitter, sparking an international wave of discussion. This heightened tension meant that every move by the royal family was scrutinized. Whenever Camilla appeared at public events, all eyes were on her, and every gesture was analyzed, commented on, or mocked. Meanwhile, William and Catherine appeared confident, managing charity events with professionalism, reinforcing their image as principled, transparent, and authoritative figures within the monarchy. Ultimately, the scandal was not just financial, it was a lesson in honor and trust within the royal family. The public realized that one could hold titles and power, but if used for personal gain, the consequences went far beyond money, destroying credibility, reputation, and trust. Camilla, once respected, became a focal point of criticism, embodying ambition and self-interest, while William and Catherine solidified their standing as guardians of integrity and the royal family's honor. If the public were the court, Camilla was facing its harshest sentence, from the judgment of the people themselves. Yet the story did not end there. Soon after news of the Buckingham meeting leaked, King Charles summoned Prince William to Clarence House, a space always enveloped in calm and authority. The meeting was more than a discussion. It was an internal tribunal, where the values of honor, power, and honesty within the royal family were weighed. William arrived, his gaze cold, his demeanor calm yet taut with tension. Charles, seasoned by countless royal storms, maintained a composed tone, yet the weight of authority simmered beneath his words. Do not let the family be torn apart over money. The short statement carried deep concern for the royal family's honor and public image. William remained unshaken. He responded, each word cutting the air like a blade. She already tore it apart herself. Cold and final, there was no room for negotiation or excuse. His eyes fixed on Charles, signaling that his actions today were meant to protect the monarchy and ensure the charity's integrity. As William and Charles discussed matters, Camilla realized events were slipping beyond her control. She sought an escape, a chance to apologize publicly, but the public's anger had grown too intense. Articles, social media commentary, clips, and memes spread rapidly, criticizing her not only for the 4.2 million pounds in opaque spending, but also for the broader abuse of personal power for self-interest. The public understood that the honor and reputation of a dynasty cannot be bought with money or masked by vague explanations. Charities formerly patronized by Camilla were not silent. They demanded full audits of all records associated with her. Every invoice copy, expenditure, and cultural projects she had approved was scrutinized. Some organizations went further, suspending related projects and requiring detailed transparency reports. This was not merely a financial crisis, it was a blow to trust and credibility for the royal family and the charitable institutions under its purview. Insiders revealed that Camilla had been temporarily suspended from the Royal Foundation's Board of Trustees, a move that served both as disciplinary action and a stark warning to other royal family members. No one is above the law, and no one may exploit power or title for personal gain. Long-standing advisors within the palace began reviewing Camilla's roles and authority, questioning her long-term involvement in charitable and royal activities. William and Catherine maintained a resolute and composed demeanor. Catherine appeared at charity events with calm poise and sharp eyes, silently but firmly signaling that the royal family remained in control and would tolerate no abuse of power. Her presence amplified William's authority, reinforcing their image as guardians of honor and transparency. Standing in stark contrast to Camilla, tensions between William and Charles also grew, though their exchanges became more profound. In a private meeting, Charles acknowledged that Camilla had once been an important part of the family, but her recent actions had severely damaged the royal family's credibility. William, resolute as ever, emphasized that personal affection could not override public trust in the family's honor. The brief but weighty exchange underscored William's seriousness, decisiveness, and sense of responsibility, not just for himself but for the next generation of the monarchies. The fallout extended to financial advisors and auditors, who began scrutinizing all records, working closely with William and Catherine to ensure every Camilla-related expense was thoroughly examined. Experts noted that this scandal would leave a lasting mark, not only financially, but also in the royal family's internal power dynamics. After multiple attempts to apologize, Camilla realized that forgiveness from both the public and the monarchy would not come easily. Each appearance placed her under intense scrutiny. Every gesture was analyzed, and every move judged against standards of honor and transparency. Gradually, she lost influence, became isolated from critical decisions, and in the public eye, her image was reduced to one of manipulation and self-interest. Royal media analysts observed that this episode was a public test of trust and honor. When a royal exploits personal power, the consequences extend far beyond lost funds. They tarnish the family's reputation, erode public confidence, and jeopardize the credibility of charitable institutions. Camilla became a living example that no one is above the law, while William and Catherine emerged as responsible stewards, defending the monarchy's integrity and honor. Amid this tension, Charles also faced pressure from advisors and the public. He understood that failing to act decisively would allow the scandal to escalate, damaging the royal family's image long-term. William, through decisive and transparent action, became the symbol of a new generation ready to confront crises, while Camilla, once powerful and respected, was held fully accountable for her conduct. For the first time, the British throne was threatened not by external foes, but by a growing fissure within the Windsor dynasty. The missing £4.2 million from the Royal Foundation sparked public outrage. Yet inside the palace, an even more shocking secret was slowly emerging. William and Catherine knew this was not merely a financial issue. It threatened the monarchy's honor and credibility. The final secret, hidden within leaked documents, proved to be the key to the entire story. One Tuesday morning, as financial advisors, auditors, and William reviewed all records, they discovered a shocking truth. Camilla had funneled money through a relative's company to circumvent auditing regulations. This was no oversight or misunderstanding. Every document and transaction demonstrated clear, calculated intent for personal gain. Furthermore, most of the funds had not been used for charitable projects as reported, but to manipulate media perception of Camilla, ensuring she could maintain her reputation across newspapers, television, and social media. William stared, his eyes filled with disappointment and anger. Years of charitable work, meant to symbolize the monarchy's compassion and honor, had been exploited for Camilla's personal benefit. Catherine stood beside her husband, observing every move, understanding the frustration and responsibility William bore. She quietly advised, "Let the public see the truth for themselves." It was a strategic decision to remain silent before the press, offering no explanations or excuses, allowing evidence and leaked information to speak for itself. Both understood that a hasty public statement might distract from the facts, giving Camilla another chance to conceal the truth. After careful consideration, William ordered Camilla barred from attending any charity events until the investigation concluded. It was a decisive measure, both a warning and a protection of the monarchy's reputation. The decision was implemented immediately. Camilla's invitations and event schedules were suspended, and she no longer attended routine meetings. Advisors and palace staff recognized this as the first time a senior royal had been so thoroughly isolated, creating unprecedented tension within the palace. The atmosphere inside Buckingham grew cold. Camilla walked through the palace's long corridors, each step echoing like a reminder of the power she had lost. No one greeted her. No sympathetic glance met her eyes. She was completely isolated from both royal family members and longtime staff. From an outsider's perspective, the image was striking. A once powerful queen, now confronted with rejection and judgment from the very throne she had once ascended with confidence. The public outside did not overlook this development either. When British and American newspapers reported that Camilla had been barred from attending charity events, social media quickly split into two camps, one condemning her as greedy, fame-hungry, and deceiving in the public, while the other attempted to frame it as an internal power struggle between generations of the royal family. Yet, in-depth analyses from financial experts and royal media specialists emphasized that the evidence and the transactions were indisputable, leaving Camilla completely isolated both in terms of power and reputation. Charities formerly associated with Camilla immediately demanded full audits of their records. Cultural projects and past events were meticulously reviewed. Questionable expenditures and contracts signed with Camilla's trusted companies were eliminated and investigated. The charitable funds, once symbols of compassion and transparency, were now overshadowed by suspicion and disappointment. William and Catherine continued to remain publicly silent, but inside the palace, they controlled every move, every meeting, every decision involving Camilla was closely monitored. William, determined to safeguard royal honor, implemented a series of measures, restricting Camilla's participation, demanding transparency, and warning other advisors against abusing power. Catherine played a strategic supporting role, ensuring that every step was proper and avoided further controversy. Camilla's isolation became more than a symbol of personal failure. It reflected the monarchy's strict stance on the abuse of power. No one, regardless of rank or influence, is above the law or the standards of honor. Inside the palace, every step Camilla took served as a reminder that power comes with responsibility and fairness. These days, Camilla's life was filled with loneliness and frustration. Once powerful and respected by both the public and the monarchy, she now faced constant scrutiny, her every action judged harshly. The scene resembled a queen rejected by the very throne she had once confidently ascended, both symbolic and cautionary for anyone who might think they can exploit status and power for personal gain. Meanwhile, William and Catherine, despite pressure from the public and media, remained steadfast. They embodied a new generation of the monarchy, transparent, resolute, and trusting that the public would see the truth. While Camilla remained isolated, William and Catherine ensured that charitable activities continued. The royal family's credibility remained intact, and the dignity of the throne was not further compromised. Looking back on the scandal, the British public quietly reflected that money can be recovered, but honor cannot. William's decision to remove Camilla from the meeting room sent a shockwave through Buckingham Palace and served as a stark warning about what happens when greed outweighs responsibility and honor. The $4.2 million, the transfers through a relative's company, and the personal expenditures revealed a painful truth. Unchecked power leads to the loss of trust and reputation. William understood that the most frightening consequence was not the lost money, but the deep fissure in public trust, built over generations, now shaking. Camilla, once a powerful member of the family, was now isolated within the palace, greeted by no one, every step reminding her of the loneliness that comes when power is abused. Catherine, now on, beside William, remained silent. Yet her eyes spoke volumes. Transparency and accountability were the principles the monarchy must uphold. The media, public, and social networks scrutinized every detail. Camilla was accused of greed, vanity, and exploiting power for personal gain. Meanwhile, William and Catherine, determined to protect the royal family's honor and credibility, acted calmly but decisively, remaining silent before the press so that the evidence could speak for itself. Their approach not only demonstrated maturity in wielding power, but also reinforced that public trust and honor are worth more than any sum of money. Finally, a powerful message resonated. When hands that once held power are stained by greed, even the throne grows cold. In that closed room at Buckingham, it was not just one person who was removed, but also the public's trust in a once revered institution. The episode left a valuable lesson. Power is not for personal gain, but a responsibility to protect. Every action, every decision is remembered, and the public acts as a fair tribunal, leaving no forgiveness for those who abuse title and trust. The story concludes, but the echoes of greed, integrity, and trust linger. A reminder that in the world of royalty, no one is above the law, honor, or the public's trust.